Hey everybody, Rob here. It's time for a few stories from the ChoosingBeggars subreddit. First one, Choosing Beggar thinks her dead stare can grant her free products. Let's jump right in. A subscription a day keeps the robots away.
Oh, is that how it works?
It was a bloody hot day and I had to work alone. There were tons of people crowding the station where I worked in a desperate attempt to buy some cold drinks to cool them off. A lot of people were heading to the beach by train, so they all naturally had to pass the cafe that I work at. Things finally started to quiet down when this older lady entered the cafe. She ordered a coffee and requested to have some free bottled water. I informed her that I, sadly, couldn't really give away water without getting in trouble with my boss, seeing as we were supposed to sell it and not give it away. Her friendly demeanor dropped quickly. Quotes aren't exact and are translated. "What do you mean I can't have free water? It's freaking hot. Don't you see how hot it is?" she said. She wasn't shouting, but it felt like she was because she was that intense. I apologized and told her that those were the rules we had to abide by. "Since when?" she said in a disbelieving manner. "I get it when it's winter, but it's summer. It should be free. It really should. That's illegal and inhumane in this heat," she said without blinking. Her eyes were scary and reminded me of the eyes of my grandmother, an evil and selfish woman. I apologized again while stepping back. We had put a shield made of glass that blocked customers in front of the cash register because of current events, but she found the small space that wasn't covered and kind of popped her head through the space, if that makes any sense. She sighed and finally blinked, and she ordered her coffee and paid for it, thankfully without complaining. I thought it was over. I quickly made her coffee thinking that it was done. I handed her the coffee and she leaned over the counter and just stared, her eyes cold, and I swear she wasn't blinking. Her pupils kind of dilated, and I swear it looked like though she had some kind of superpowers and that she could convince me by just staring at me. I told her to have a nice day, and she blinked surprised. "Really? So you're not going to give me free water?" I just shook my head, and she scoffed, grabbed her coffee, and went to the end of the cafe. It's a sort of to-go cafe, so most people just grabbed their drinks and left. She didn't. At the end of the cafe, there was a condiment bar with sugar and milk, and it was facing the outside. She just stood there, turned around so she was facing me, and glared at me the whole time. And I can't be sure, but she stayed for about 30 minutes before she left. As I mentioned before, I was alone at that time, and there is a store section that I also had to take care of. So I grabbed some water bottles from the cooler and started to stock the store. I was sitting on the ground and quickly started to stock the water when I felt a presence and saw something move. I turned around and she was right behind me. She looked down at me and asked me how much the water was. I told her it was $2.30, overpriced because it was at the station. And I quickly got back up and walked over to the back, so I was behind the shielded part of the store. She scoffed and laughed and started to shout quietly about how it was inhumane and illegal to ask money for water. "Water? Plain water? I'm going to make a complaint," and blah blah blah. Exactly at that time, a colleague who works at the same cafe walked in because he was starting his shift later that day. I asked him to just take over for a second because I wanted to go to the bathroom for a while, but I couldn't just close the store, and he agreed. I kind of felt bad for leaving him with her, but had to go. Thankfully, she was gone when I came back and she didn't bother my colleague. I messaged my boss to inform her of what happened in case the choosing beggar would make a complaint, and I was told that I handled the situation well. Her eyes still haunt me, and I've only met 2 people, her and evil grandmother, who had the power to make me feel so tense with their eyes. I'm actually really surprised that OP wouldn't have offered some tap water. I guess some places don't allow that, but I think anywhere up here if you walked in and said, "Hey, can you fill up my water bottle?" they'd probably do it. Also, anybody else recognize that entitled Karen stare? It's a sight to behold in the wild. On to our next story. Sister rejected a guy because of his father's choice of employment. Let's jump right in. This is a long story, and some of the cultural things I mention might be unfamiliar to you because we're from the east side of the world, so please bear with us. On a side note, Aussie guy Shano, this story might not be for you, because it's based in a non-Western country where customs are different. My sister and I have a strained relationship. Well, she has a strained relationship with everybody due to her anti-social behavior. She's lazy, rude, ill-tempered, and a bit of a drama queen. Not surprisingly, she doesn't have friends and spends time shut in her room, watching movies or sleeping. Introversion is fine. I am an introvert, but I don't turn my face away from anyone. I mean anyone. When they try to speak to me and never speak, but glare at them as if they did something wrong, like my sister does. She doesn't even try to make people feel comfortable around her. Also, if she does something wrong and someone tries to correct her, she will take it personally and see them as her enemy. She also exaggerates the story into something dramatic that makes them her bully and her the victim. So it's obvious that I am the better daughter in the family that everyone likes and often approach first instead of sister, who's older than me, which made her jealous of me. I also happen to have a better paying job and a boyfriend, which added fuel to the fire. She constantly tries to compare herself with me by copying everything I do, starting from my choice of career to clothing. Naturally, we have constant fights, or she creates fights in spite of her jealousy. So I stopped talking to her even though we're living in the same house with our mother. As of Asian customs, my family decided to arrange a marriage for sister. We set up an account for her in a matrimonial site, similar to dating site, except people marry instead of dating. Sister didn't get many interests, which I secretly expected because she's out of shape, and she is glaring at the camera in most of her pictures in the site as if she's uninterested because she's too lazy to look presentable in the pictures. I suspected if she didn't like to have an arranged marriage, but I noticed her looking into her account at times. Most of the interest she's receiving were either high school dropouts and unemployed men, or men that's too old for her, and it is understandable for her to reject them. But what made me disappointed at her was something else. Last month, a guy contacted my family. I am not a person who's into arranged marriages, but I really liked this person. He's a decent guy with decent job and fair personality, and I thought he would be a good match for sister. I think he was the best among all the proposals that came for her. My family liked him very much. With high hopes, we waited for sister's answer as she and Guy started to have virtual dates due to the current world situation. Hopes were dying when we noticed sister ditching his calls by telling him she's in meetings even though she's not. Days passed and we got a call from Guy, and he was disappointed. He told that sister is avoiding him and he believes she is not interested in him, so he is dropping the proposal. After the call, my mother talked to her. This is how the conversation went. "What's happening with Guy? Why are you avoiding him? He's asking too many questions, like what I want for a person I'm about to marry, my job, you people, the future. He's so clingy and getting too personal." Shocked at her answer and me face-palming silently in the background. That's how people should get to know each other before they marry. They talk about personal things. He's not being clingy, he's trying to get to know you. It didn't sound like that. He was pushy, and I think he is having some kind of inferiority complex. Why is that? He told me he doesn't live in a house with facilities as good as ours, and that he comes from a middle-class family. I told him I didn't know if I can adjust myself to live with him as a middle-class person, as I lived a luxurious life. He didn't like it, and he is just taking out the anger on me. I have to point out here, we're also a middle-class family, except that we live in a city and our father used to work abroad. Sister is just being entitled. Mother and I couldn't believe she said that. How could you say that? That's very rude of you. No wonder why he sounded sad. You shouldn't have said that. Why are you siding with him? He's the one starting all of this. He's the one being rude. Besides, that's not the reason why I rejected him. His father is a taxi driver, and I can't see myself being married to a driver's son. Again, I have to note, yes, his father is a taxi driver. He is retired from his previous desk job and took up part-time job as a driver. So what? Guy has a great job. He has an MBA degree too. So you want me married off to a taxi driver's family while OP is marrying a guy whose father is an accountant? This is not fair. Why is all the bad things happening to me? Mother's jaw dropped and double facepalm for me. And to Guy, consider yourself lucky because you just dodged a bullet. I can't comment on the arranged marriage thing because I'm just completely unfamiliar with how that works. However, I can comment on OP's sister being a very entitled choosing beggar. She's the kind of person that should come with a warning label that says, marry at your own risk, no returns. On to our last story, my sister, the choosing beggar. Let's jump right in. Some backstory. So recently, my sister had an unknown accident, which resulted in her messing up her leg really bad. It is unknown because I'm pretty sure she broke her leg doing something very dumb, like jumping out of a car, but she won't tell anyone how she did it. She ended up getting surgery and now she is on crutches. Present day, we are all at home due to quarantine. Every day basically, she wants to go somewhere, whether it is Target or Walmart or just drive around or something. I just came back from a 3-month internship, so she decides she can just stack all of these requests on top of me immediately. I would be happy to do it, except for the fact it's always such an effort. For example, today she screamed at me to take her to Walmart for about an hour until I agreed. I had a meeting in about 2 hours, but I didn't think it would take that long. I was wrong. I grabbed my keys and was ready to go, but then she was still sitting on the couch and starting a show. She told me, "Oh, can you wait? I need to finish these episodes." I already was dropping what I was initially doing to drive her, so I was a little irked. It is an hour later and I see she is done with her show. I tell her, "Let's go now, I have a meeting in an hour." Then she says, "Oh, can you grab my scooter? I need it or else I am going to be so slow," in some sort of pity-inducing, threatening voice. I just rolled it off since she wanted to grab like one thing and she is pretty good on crutches at this point. Then she said, "Can you grab me a new shirt and pants? Otherwise, I have to go upstairs and get it myself and I will be so slow." I was getting pretty mad at how she was saying so slow and basically told her to call me when you are ready. I listened to her grumble for 30 minutes while literally doing nothing. She didn't get a new shirt or pants or get her scooter. She just sat there. Then 30 minutes later, she calls me. And at this point, I couldn't go because I had my meeting. Then she starts yelling at me for not being patient or whatever, which I replied to the fact I was ready 2 hours ago and I offered to just pick it up without her. It would have been faster and safer. Either way, a similar situation has happened at least 3 times this week, and I am getting pretty tired of it. Hey OP, I'd like to teach you a new word. It starts with an N and ends with an O, and you pronounce it like this. No. It's a very useful word and will make your life much easier over the coming decades. I'd like to thank all 3 OPs for posting their stories to the ChoosingBeggars subreddit. You can visit them at the links in the description below. Please go there and give them an upvote. I also happen to have a better paying job and a boyfriend. For sake. Once again, this is Rob from Karma Comment Chameleon saying thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and share it with your friends, and we'll see you in the next one.